Welcome to your class live video recording of other nonfiction. Now there are three examples we're going to talk about for this video. The heart is a torn muscle, the knife, and I remain very sorry for what I did to the little black kitten. You should find links to these in the class live video site. If you have trouble locating them, shoot me an email and I will send you the links. I'm going to start off talking about the heart as a torn muscle. I like this example of creative nonfiction because it's not like anything we've read so far in the course. It's not really a story, and I think it's written very creatively, where the speaker kind of treats it like a medical diagnosis. We have the overview and the symptoms and how to care for yourself and when you should seek care and the tests that you can take and recommended reading. I think it's a really fabulous example of taking creative nonfiction to the next level, because clearly this is based off a personal experience. And initially starting into it, I thought this story was about having a child, and it turns out to be about having an affair. So I really like this. Your heart was already full, but when you saw him, and your heart beat code, not Morse code, but a more insistent pulse. Oh yes, that's him, the one. So your heart is beating out that pulse, seeing someone and having that instant romantic feeling. And she goes on to explain, there's pain in your heart because you can't figure out what you want, and literally your heart aches. I love how she talks about applying ice, using a protective layer. Clothing is better, or still several feet, a separate piece of furniture, a wall or a building, ideally a state line or a continent. So trying to cool it and staying away from that person. I think it's such a creative way to talk about these feelings that you might have if you're in a relationship and find a new significant other that you might want to pursue and are tempted to maybe cheat on your significant other or what have you. And she talks about it in such a medical way, and I think it's a really brilliant approach. And again, not like anything else we've seen. We still use a lot of that figurative language. Avoid stimulants, caffeine, chocolate, Cheetos. Not really a stimulant. So we have the same figurative language, this kind of painting of a story that is typical of creative nonfiction, and this sharing of the human experience, but at the same time written in a completely different way. So this is one of my favorite examples. Again, this is The Heart as a Torn Muscle by Randon Billings Noble. Next, I want to talk about The Knife by Richard Selzer. What I like about this is that it's very much written as a narrative, but it's not so much about Richard Selzer and his experience as so much as it is about his experience with the knife. And I like that the knife has become the centerpiece here. He's not talking about himself. He's talking about the scalpel almost as a weapon. And he has some really brilliant lines. I like here how he compares being a doctor to being like a priest. They take their vows, the Socratic oath. There's so much training and fatigue and sacrifice, and at the end of it, they wear this regalia. You don't have a chalice. There's no wine. There's no water. There's blood and flesh and a knife. And that's such a really powerful metaphor and comparison to be making there. One of my other favorite lines, let's see if I can find it. He notes that he's up to the elbow, and he says the body is, where is it? The body is impaled up to the elbow, and it's such a strong, strong line. Anyways, and he goes on to kind of break down the scalpel. It's two parts. It's not really a whole thing. And he talks about, we're cutting away the tumor, this gray mother and her brood. So lots of great figurative language, still very much written in a narrative form, but not so much about him or any specific detailed experience. I mean, he is talking about a specific surgery that he performed, but it could be any surgery. And really, it's got this shared human experience that our bodies are this primitive, eternal universe inside of us, and that's such a cool way to be writing about such a shared human experience. Finally, I want to talk about I remain very sorry for what I did to the little black kitten. I like this story a lot because it evolves slowly, and we don't really know where she's going with it. But we definitely have a very clear narrative. She's saying she got this kitten. Her father said, yeah, that's fine, you can keep it, but he was going through a lot. She didn't want to trouble him. And I love this lining here. My mother did something similar. She drove around our neighborhood and threw one of our house cats out the window. I was supposed to have been too young to have remembered, but I remembered. And that's such a powerful visual there, and it adds a layer of character complexity and depth that is really important to creative nonfiction. We suddenly have this concept of who she is. Her mom took off, and she remembers her mother throwing the cat out the window of the car to get rid of it. And I think that's such a powerful image to include in this narrative. And she does the same thing. And it's so interesting. I myself got out of the car and pried her off because the cat wanted to stay there. And it's such a beautiful ending here. Last night, the catch of grief came hard and quick. It stung my bones. My 3-year-old daughter walked up to me. We had not been talking about cats, and said that little cats like milk. They like to lick it from their little milk pools. And it's really surprising because we have this whole narrative about how she's done this pretty awful thing, and it comes back to her in the most random way. Just her child talking about little cats and milk bowls, and that's the power of creative nonfiction in this memoir style, is that little things can trigger these really powerful memories. And that's something to be thinking about when you're writing your creative nonfiction, is what triggers your memories. What little events, and I like that she's included it here. You don't necessarily have to, but I like that she does, because it gives us a trigger point, a point of reference to say, what little things set you off? So something to be thinking about. Again, these are very different examples than what's covered in your lessons, but I think they're worthwhile. I hope you read them. I hope you like them. If you have any questions or want to discuss these further, I highly encourage it. I'd love to talk to you more about these and other forms of creative nonfiction if you have examples that you would like to discuss. That's it, though, so otherwise I will see you in class.